Hi, my name is Erica Glidewell. I am a theater teacher and I teach grades 9 through 12, and I teach acting classes for theater arts in levels for a beginner all the way to advanced acting, as well as stagecraft and design, where I teach them all about design for props, costumes, set design, lights, sound, and then we build things. And the unit that I'm looking at for the backwards design model would be a theater history unit. And I've chosen this for both stagecraft design and acting students because it's really important to me that students understand the general timeline of theater and how it's affected theater today, all the way from the Greeks and prior up to now. Every single time period and era has affected theater now in many, many ways. And it's important to me that students understand why this is important and how it connects to them personally. I did this unit this year at the beginning for both classes, or for all 6 classes at the beginning of the school year, and they did okay with it. They did a really great job with the project, which was they selected a time period that they really connected with and loved, and I taught them all of the big ideas of those time periods, and then they did a research project to fill in the blanks, and they answered specific questions along the way, and then they presented a project. They could either do a monologue, some did a music video, some did a radio show, some just did a very generic presentation with a prezi, and that was fine too, as long as they hit those very key points that we were talking about. And then I conferenced with them throughout to kind of do those formative assessments and checks, and that was really helpful. But students really struggled with telling me why it was important to them, the era that they chose and the characteristics within that era, and how it connected to them and how they understood this information. Again, they were really good at giving me the facts, but interpreting and connecting to the content they really struggled with. So these 6 facets of design were really helpful for me to kind of think through this in a backwards way from the content goal of what they want to what I want them to understand and how they're going to show that to me. So very quickly, and I'm sorry if I'm scatterbrained, I've recorded this Padlet about 6 times, so I might miss something. So at the beginning, students will be able to explain their project to me and their goal. With this explanation, yes, they would be able to give me the big facts about their era and how it connects to them, but also they would start with a goal of, I want to compare and contrast the characteristics of Greek theater to my favorite stand-up comedian now, this person. And it might not be, the stand-up comedian might not be specifically to theater or maybe a movie, but they're connecting to it. They're pulling from that theater history, they're pulling from the content that they've learned, and they're connecting to it personally of how they feel about it. So they would be able to explain and answer very specific questions. This also could be done with checkpoints throughout the way. If a student doesn't love public speaking or performing, we can definitely do conferences so that's where they can explain and we can conference back and forth about those big facts. Interpretation. Students need to be able to tell me their own interpretation or reasoning as to why this era is important to them. They need to be able to put themselves in the shoes of that designer. Maybe they're designing a project and they're going to maybe design Oklahoma as it was in 1933 with a set design, and then they change that design to how they would design it now in 2019, maybe in a trailer park. They would be able to justify that interpretation based on the script, based on societal influences, political influences, religious influences, all of those characteristics we talk about. But they would be able to interpret that era in their own way using those big facts. They might do a monologue. They might perform a monologue from Romeo and Juliet as it would be with very specific Shakespearean language. And then they might translate that into, if they were to perform it now as maybe a scat or a poem, how they would interpret that language. And interpret it based on all of those historical facts that we talked about of society, religion, and politics, as well as many other things. It's really important to me that theater students are able to interpret. They're able to justify their choices and why they have done something, whether it be design or an acting choice. And a lot of those things go back to the script, and that script is written from a piece of history. So it's really important that they are able to interpret. Application, again, students are able to choose this project and show me how they want to show this knowledge in many, many ways. I had one student that did a music video this year. One student wrote different monologues. It was really fun to watch them show their own personality of how they connected with this work. Perspective, for me as a theater teacher, perspective and empathy kind of go hand in hand. I know that they're different, but students will select a characteristic of a theater era, and with their own perspective, with their own eyes, they're able to show us their own point of view. Their own point of view might be different from a playwright then, or a designer then, or even a theater goer, even if they don't want to be an actor or designer, as an audience member, of how maybe a show affected them when they watched Hamlet for the first time compared to watching it now, and really empathizing with that and having the emotion to connect with that. Self-knowledge, they would wrap this all up with, here's how I accomplished my goal, and they would kind of do a checkpoint, because every student learns differently, every student is very different. So hopefully with this project and the 6 facets, answering those questions, they would be able to better connect to this content and show me that they connect.